Hello again. This is Monica Pitts, and welcome to Marketing with Purpose. You know, I got up this morning and I went to hot yoga. Did you know that your shins can sweat? Like sweat can come out of the fronts of the shins on your legs, like you have any other shins on your body? I did not know this until I started going to hot yoga, and today was warm, rewarding yet warm. And I looked down and there it was on my shins, sweat. Like, who even knew you had sweat glands there? But that is not why I started this podcast today. The reason I started this podcast today is because we need to have a heart-to-heart. We need to have a discussion that I've been meaning to have with you for a while, and it's about your donors. I need to know if you really know who they are. And, I was going to wait. I wasn't going to have this conversation today. I wasn't sure I was really ready to have it with you. I didn't know if maybe I knew you well enough to have it, quite frankly. Maybe we just met. Heck, we could be meeting for the first time. But this is a really important conversation. And so after hot yoga, I was hanging out and I met a new friend in the shower. And by meeting a new friend, I mean like I listen to podcasts in the shower. So I was hanging out with my friend Pat Flynn with Smart Passive Income. He doesn't know that he's my friend, but we hang out a lot right now because he's really smart and I like to listen to the words that he says. And he had a friend on his show who is now my new friend, and he doesn't know me either, but his name is Ray Edwards, and he wrote a book called How to Write Copy That Sells. So Ray was talking, and oh man, the sound of his voice is pretty great. He has such a nice voice. Yeah, it's great to listen to him talk. And I really like the way that he explains things. You can tell that he's a writer. You can tell that he has thought about this stuff a lot, and he's been doing it for a really long time. And he brought everything in their whole conversation back to your audience. And I thought maybe this is actually a sign, right? Because here I am on this journey to serve nonprofits and help them plan their marketing. And I think I'm not ready to have this conversation about whether or not you really know your donors, because I'm going to have to put you on the spot here and ask you a lot of hard questions. And I've been asking those same questions of myself. So we're going to do it. We're having this talk today because Ray inspired me to do it and Pat inspired me to do it. And so we're doing it, okay? Now, here's the deal. When we have this conversation, I want you to stay open-minded. And remember that I'm just hanging over here by myself and there's no one else talking to me. And if you were here, it would be an amazing conversation where we would absolutely discover everything that we need to discover about your donors and about your target market. But you're not here. So instead, I'm going to try to have this conversation in a one-sided way that can help you understand whether you really know your donors, why it matters that you understand them, and what you need to know about them, and ways that you can reconnect with them if, on the off chance, it turns out that you really don't know them as well as you thought you did. So without further ado, let's get to business.
If you're a natural-born marketer, you're one lucky son of a gun. If you're like most people, marketing, especially online marketing, is about as appealing as standing in a police lineup. The May Create team of creatives has transformed websites and digital marketing from craptastic to fantastic since 2005. Our podcast, Marketing with Purpose, makes sense of marketing so you can make purposeful decisions instead of carrying on with the same old crap you've been doing. And now your host, Monica Pitts, founder of May Create, with another episode on how to make your marketing not suck.
Now, before I drag you into this heart-to-heart, I want to remind you that there is a blog post that accompanies this episode out on podcast.maycreate.com. And you can go check it out. You can read all the questions that I'm going to ask you. You can use those questions as a guide to formulate your thoughts and organize conversations that you might have with your donors to reconnect with them in the long run. if it turns out that, you don't know them as well as you think you know them. So head on over to podcast.makecreate.com and check it out. Also, over in our resources section, I have a how to create a marketing plan workbook that, man, I was like going crazy one day and I made this thing. I don't even know how many pages it is, but it has lots of activities in it that will help you plan your marketing. And a big part of that is assessing your target market, understanding your donors and the people that you need to connect with through your marketing. So check that out as well if you are very serious about doing this and going through the journey and getting your marketing on the right track. Okay, so are you sitting down? I'm not. I'm standing up. I'm standing up at my desk, standing up to have this important conversation with you. So I think I need to just start at the beginning and ask you just one more time. Do you really know your donors? I'm sure that you're sitting there thinking, yes, yeah, I totally know who they are. I know their names. And then you're asking yourself, why does it even matter? Why are you even nervous about having this conversation with me, Monica? Like, that's kind of silly because obviously I know my donors. So the answer is easy. Well, it matters right now more than ever because we all know that things are changing. And when things start to change, so when you have to start shifting directions and taking your events online and adjusting the way that you communicate with your donors, it makes you question things. It makes you question everything. It makes you question where you spend your time and what's the best use of your energy. And if you are asking those questions of yourself, like, am I doing this the right way? Is this the most important thing? Should I be investing this time in this event and figuring out how to do it digitally? If you're asking yourself those questions, I want to let you know that understanding your audience, understanding your donors and your volunteers and the people that you serve will allow you to confidently make those decisions. You can make other decisions more easily too, like, what should I post on social media? How can I make a good appeal to my volunteers and donors that really works? And even what type of event should I do to meet new people? Because you're busy. I know you are. Especially if you are an executive director to a small but mighty nonprofit and you don't have a fundraising or development or marketing person at your back helping you do all these things, you need to make sure that you're doing the most important things all the time to make your organization thrive. Those decisions start with understanding your audience. For example, let's say that you're doing events, and let's say that you had lots of events in the past, and events were a way that you met people, because in the nonprofit world, right, the events are like a big advertisement. They draw people in. But I have a lot of clients that do a lot of events, and I look at their events and I ask them hard questions about them, and sometimes they don't like these questions. They don't like it when I ask these questions. I say, why are you doing that event? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to serve your people. It doesn't seem like it's serving your mission. And they say, oh, well, a board member came up with the event and now we're doing it. And I'm like, yeah, but when I think about the people that you serve, when I think about your mission, it doesn't align. And your events need to bring in people that you can meet that have the same values as you and the same interests as you so that you can continue having a relationship with them easily. You don't marry somebody who doesn't want to do anything that you do. Well, I mean, I say that. My husband and I have pretty opposite interests, but we have the same core values. And that is what makes us such a strong pair, is that when we parent our kids, when we make decisions for our family, whether it's financially or even socially, we're always on the same page. I have never had a time where I think, wow, I can't believe that he thinks that we should parent our kids like that. No, We have the same core values. So while we don't have the same interests all the time, because he loves to golf and I like to do yoga or I like to do art, and he doesn't want to paint anything other than maybe a wall occasionally. And even then he doesn't really like to paint the walls, but you get what I'm saying, right? So you want to find relationships where you have core values in common, where you have interests in common, so that you can foster those relationships. And that all starts with understanding who you're serving. So for example, let's say that you've always done a 5K every year for your organization. And now you're like, oh, wow, I have to figure out how to do a virtual 5K. Well, that could be a lot of effort. And you have a lot of things to do. It's not like, oh, I'm going to pull out the plan that I used last year and we're going to do this 5K. No, you have to figure out how to do it a completely different way. That takes a lot of energy. Now I want you to sit back and ask yourself, does it make sense for me to do a 5K? Does that connect me with people who have the same interests and the same values as my organization and its mission? So for example, if your organization is Girls on the Run, perfect. Have a virtual 5K. Don't ever give it up. It totally makes sense. If your organization is the food bank, maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, I guess I could see some overlap there because people are worried about keeping people healthy, and runners are usually worried about keeping themselves healthy, and exercise keeps people healthy. So there's some overlap there. Now, if your organization is the Historical Society, it doesn't really make sense. They don't overlap. So as you're faced with these crazy new parameters for meeting people and maintaining your relationships with your donors and potential donors, we need to make sure that we understand who they are. So that way we can make sure that everything that you're investing your energy in is actually serving you. And now let me get this straight right now. I got to get it out of the way. I got to put it on the table. Your target market isn't everybody. Your goal should never be to appeal to everybody with your marketing. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, Monica, I'm not trying to appeal to everybody. I'm just trying to appeal to people who have extra income. Nope, that's not it. Because does extra income overlap with your values? Does it overlap with your mission? I mean, no, it probably doesn't. So that is not a justifiable reason to talk to everybody with extra income. I can't tell you how many times I have sat in initial meetings with people, especially when I used to do all the sales for May Create, and I would say, so tell me about your target market. And they would say, oh, well, it's anybody who owns a house. No. Okay. And I would sit there and I know you marketers out there, you are nodding your heads right now. I would sit there and I would think, poker face, Monica, poker face. It is so lucky that these people cannot see my eyes rolling around in the back of my head, because I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to convert you to my way of thinking? Because if I have to make marketing for your company that appeals to everybody, I hope you've got a lot of money, because we are going to have to run a lot of different campaigns, because you don't serve everybody. You don't. You want to seek out specific individuals to start relationships with. When you talk to everybody, it's like having a conversation with a person whose eyes are just roaming around the room constantly, looking for the next person that they can go have a conversation with, looking for the next person better. And you've seen commercials like this. When this commercial comes on, you just tune out and you can look around the room and everybody's on their phones and they're not even interested at all in what's on the television. And when you see a commercial that's targeted to somebody, while you may not get it, you watched it and you also thought to yourself, that was weird. And it's because it wasn't targeted towards you. But if you're in a room, like imagine yourself at the Super Bowl when they have all those outlandish commercials, right? Those commercials are very targeted and they're super entertaining, but not everybody understands or connects with every message. And sometimes I'm sitting there laughing and the guys are like, what just happened? What's going on? Or I'm crying. There's Google commercials that make me cry. And the guys are like, Monica, what's going on? And I'm like, you have to rewind it because that was such an amazing commercial. And they connected with me on a level that is very strong. Now, I like to tell this story about a guy named Jim Spieler. He was in my Rotary group and he passed away in 2014. Now, the first time that I met Jim, we were at an event. I was with my husband. I was in like my mid-20s. And Jim, he's clearly older than me. He was probably in his 60s at that point. And he was a successful businessman. He was a marketer. And my husband introduced me to Jim, and Jim gave me his full undivided attention. And then when I joined Rotary and I had conversations with Jim, he always gave me his full undivided attention. He looked at me when I spoke, he listened to the words that I said, and he asked me questions back that made sense. And it made me feel so incredibly special. He made me feel like I was important. And that is how your audience needs to feel when you're talking to them, like they're important. Like Jim. And when he passed away, I put a Post-it note on my desk that said, I will listen with more than my ears. I will see with more than my eyes. I will interact from my heart, because that is what I learned from him. And that's the story that I love to tell about why it matters to understand your target market and why it's not everybody. Because Jim made me feel special, and he would not have made me feel special, this young lady who was just trying to forge a path in her business, if he hadn't paid attention, if he hadn't had a conversation with just me, if he'd been trying to have that same conversation with 20 other people in the room. Now, I'm sure that you do know your donors' names, especially the big ones. I know that you know their names. You probably know where they work. And that's awesome, right? But tell me this. Overall, do you know how old they are? Do you know their gender? Do you know how they make decisions as a family? Do you know their education level and their education level about what you do, about your mission? Do you know what drew them to you? Do you know what makes them stay? Do you know what makes them happy, what their hobbies are? Do you know if they would contribute more if you asked, or how they might want to contribute? Do you understand their goals personally and professionally? And do you understand if there's a way that you can fit in and help them achieve those things? Do you know what makes them really, really angry? Can you identify a good donor just by listening to them talk, just by overhearing a conversation with someone? Can you pick out phrases that they would use that you think, yes, that is my person? Do you know your next generation of donors? Because I gotta tell you, they're gonna be slightly different than this last generation. You have to interact with them differently. That doesn't mean that they don't have the same core values, but it does mean that you're going to have to start the relationship now so that when you want to ask them to give, you have a relationship to fall back on. Do you know who they are? Do you know what point in life they're at? And do you know all of those things about them? What might draw them to you? What their hobbies are? What their concerns are? Do you know the challenges that they face every single day and why they may or may not have already come in contact with your organization? Those are some tough questions to ask yourself. And you may be able to answer all of these. I would be so super pumped if you knew all these answers. I have to tell you, though, that when I ask businesses these same questions, they do not know these answers. They don't know them. They might have some of the demographic data in a software someplace, but they don't know in their heart who they're serving. And a great business runs with that servitude. That's what makes people want to work with them, because they understand the people that they serve and they do everything that they can to make that relationship amazing. And that makes them a lot like you. That makes them a lot like a nonprofit. Now, right now, I'm on a journey to launching a program to help nonprofits plan their marketing. And my heart led me on this journey. I've been doing a campaign called Como Gives for the last 7 years, through which we help our local nonprofits raise money. And the last 4 years, we've done a workshop, a training event for marketing, because so many of the people participating in the campaign are super small nonprofits, and they just weren't sure how to ask and how to market it online because this was a new thing for them. And we wanted to make the campaign as successful as possible because we understand there's a multiplier effect. We know that when people come in, they donate to more than one organization. And so the more people that I can get to that website, the more donations I can get for more organizations. So our path was education. Let's give them everything that we think they would need to be able to run a successful campaign. And one of the ways that I found this was I got all these thank you letters this year. I kid you not. Like, I know that there were 140 nonprofits that came to this training, and there were probably 300 people in the room, but these 20 thank you letters just filled me with gratitude. And it rekindled this fire in me that this is what we need to be doing right now. We need to be helping these people. And so I'm on this journey to launch this program. And I was laying out all of the elements for my course, exactly what I thought I needed to teach. And I asked myself, is that what you really need to know? Because I don't just want to talk about what I want to talk about. I want to make this right. I want to make you successful. I want you to find your path and to be able to do your marketing with absolute confidence. That's my goal, right? And so I was asking myself these same questions that I just asked you. And I realized that maybe I didn't know. I thought I knew because I work with lots of nonprofit clients, and I've been doing this workshop, and I've been working with Como Gives, and I thought I knew, but there was some doubt there. And so I signed up for this class, and I'm taking an online class. It's with Stu McLaren, who's the guy that started the tribe theory. And he's a pretty cool guy. He gets really excited about stuff. My daughter asks me, "Mommy, why is that guy yelling at you?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's just excited. He's not actually yelling." And he told me to assess my audience online. So I went online, and I was looking at YouTube videos and the comments in YouTube videos. I was looking in forums and comments in blog posts. I was looking in public Facebook groups, and I was trying to find the voices that I needed to hear. I was trying to understand where you're at, what you need from me. And all I found was really sad stuff of people who were in really crappy situations, and they weren't nonprofits. They were people who had absolutely no money and were trying to figure out how to pay their bills or get their cat surgery. And oh man, it made me pretty not okay for a second. I thought, man, maybe there really isn't even anybody out there who needs this stuff. I could be on a total wrong path, right? Because here I am. I'm questioning everything I'm doing, just like you are. And then I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? This type of research never makes me feel okay. It never does. I never go out and look at my competitors' websites because I don't want to know what they're doing. Okay, let me get this straight. I do want to know what they're doing if they're doing it awesome. One of the reasons that I signed up with the training with Stu McLaren with Tribe is because he's knocking it out of the park. This dude is one of the premier trainers for people who are thinking about starting membership sites. And I thought, I want to see what this guy's doing that's making him so awesome. I want to hear his words. I want to see what his website looks like. I want to look at his downloadable resources. I want to know, because I want to be this good someday. I want to help someone this much and be this successful. So I enrolled, and I'm doing the things he says. And then I realized that it's just not right. So once again, I realized that I'm not the person that should be going out and researching online about this stuff because I couldn't hear your voice through all those comments. So I thought to myself, all right, then how am I going to know? How am I going to know if I really know you well enough to help you? And I thought to myself, well, Monica, you're an audio person, right? You love to hear people's words. I love to hear them talk. And so I got on the phone and I called nonprofits I did know. I called the leader of our community foundation. I called people I'd never met before. I called people that were big and small. I called people that asked lots and lots of questions in our last workshop training and also at other events that I've done. I remembered those people and I called people that I thought, you know what? This seems like a really cool organization. My interests and my values align with this organization. I want to hear what they're up to. And I called them all. And then I got to hear your voice and it was amazing. So if you're having a hard time connecting with your donors, if your emails aren't getting opened, if they're not making donations, if volunteers are not coming in, if you're trying to plan an event online and it makes you feel completely out of control and you're not okay and you're not even sure if you should be doing it or not or if it's worth your time, think about yourself and how this works for you and set up a Zoom call with your people. Set up a phone conversation. Call them. Ask them. I was blown away by how amazingly conversational and giving and thoughtful these people were. They didn't even know me. They didn't know me at all. And they spent 30 minutes on the phone with me, or sometimes an hour, just listening to what I was thinking about doing, giving me their feedback. Amazing. It was, my heart is so full with all of these people who have spoken to me about what they need. And we also then went through and we went to our own clients, the people that we work with, and we talked to them and we asked them, hey, what brought you to us? What makes you stay? What were the challenges you were facing before you found us? What are your goals? How do we serve you? What makes it right? And they told us. And once again, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing because I have been really trying to do this thing and be good and serve people. And it turned out that I was actually doing a pretty decent job of it because everybody said so. Of course, I didn't probably call it people that were going to tell me naughty things about myself, but you can have those same conversations. And I encourage you to do so. That is an amazing way to reconnect with your target market. If you're lucky enough to be able to have events anytime soon, then at that event, I want you to wander around with your ears open and your eyes open and listen to the conversations that are happening and pull aside individuals and ask them these questions. Engage them in this conversation so that you can understand them and go into that event with your eyes and ears open with the goal of reconnecting with people with the same values and the same interests as your mission. For each of these conversations, you're going to want to develop a framework. Don't just walk in blind and just start asking random questions because that's not going to get you where you want to go. Your goal is to uncover the challenges that these individuals face, the objections that they had before and maybe even after they started to come in contact with your organization, and the questions that they ask about your organization so that you can speak to people like them by honing in a conversation that you had with that individual. The more that you can use the language that your donors and your volunteers use with you, the more you can connect with people like them. So as you're formulating the questions, as you're formulating this conversation, really think through, how can I understand what their challenges were? How can I understand that journey that they took that led them to us? And then what were their potential objections? Was there anything that held them back initially? Just the other day, my husband said, you know what, Monica, I really feel like I should be donating to the Diabetes Association because his dad and his brother both have diabetes. And he was like, I don't know why I don't. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. And I'm like, well, no one's asked you. No one has connected with you in a way that could even lead to that ask. And so you haven't done it yet. And he's like, well, how are they going to find me? And I'm like, that's their mission. That's what I'm helping them with. And so how did you find this person? How did they come in contact with you? Where do your values and interests intersect? That's the goal of this conversation. So what's so interesting is back to my friend Ray, my new one that was hanging out in the podcast. He says that he does the exact same thing when he starts working with clients. And then I started thinking about it, and I remembered that Jason, one of our content developers who writes a lot of copy for people, a lot of words for their websites and their social media and their emails. And that's always his first instinct, to have a conversation with people. And it makes perfect sense. And when Jason came in, we actually adjusted our content development process in our company to better allow him to understand who he was writing for and who he was writing about. Just allowing him to have an initial 20-minute conversation before he started planning anything for this individual was awesome, because it allowed him to hear their voice and hear them talk about who they're serving and then go out and learn more about who they're serving. And he loves to survey their audience and survey their clients. I mean, I think that he would literally just sit around and research who he's talking to all day long if he could. So ask yourself, how can you reconnect? Or do you even need to? Do you know your donors? And if you're feeling those things, like if you're feeling like you're not sure where to put your energy, if you're not sure if you should even be doing this event or not, this is the time for change right now in this moment, because everything is adjusting right now. And that gives you an amazing opportunity to really look at what you're doing and reconnect with those people that you serve, your volunteers, your donors, and the people who benefit from your work. So use this as an opportunity. Use this to empower you to make decisions that you know are right, that are grounded on something that makes sense, that aren't just like, how do I just meet more people that have disposable income? Because those are not the people you care about. I'm a person that has disposable income, and I go to galas, and that's it. I go to these people, I shake their hands. Do you know why I go to the gala? I go because it's to network for my business or to hang out with my friends. It's not because I have an affinity with this organization. I know they do great things, but I don't have a deep connection with them. I just go to their gala. Now, when the library asks me for money, when the Humane Society asks me for money, I donate. I believe in those places. They intersect with my core values. They are amazing institutions that have brought great joy to our family. That's why I donate to them. So think about that when you're doing these events, when you're reorganizing your marketing, because you have to, right? Right now, we want to connect with the people that, once again, have the same values and the same interests as us, as our mission, so that we can be real friends with them. And we can be friends with them for a long time, and they become supporters, and then they become champions. That's who we want. We don't just want everybody. So, I hope that you feel as good about this talk as I do. I feel like it went pretty well. And maybe you're questioning a little bit more than when we started about whether you really know your donors or not. You understand why it matters now. And you understand what questions you can ask yourself and what activities you can do to reconnect with those individuals that you serve, that volunteer for you, and that make donations to your organization. So with that, my friends, remember that there is an outline for all of this stuff out at podcast.maycreate.com. So you can go out there, you can look at all those questions that I just outlined. You could also download that resource I mentioned earlier, How to Create a Marketing Plan. It'll help you through making buyer personas. So after you get through talking to everybody, then you go through the activity of making your buyer personas and you document it. You document it because then when you're trying to make decisions, you go back to it. As my old sales trainer would say, you go left all the way back to the beginning. When you're not sure, when you're uncertain of where to start, just go all the way back to the beginning and think about those people that you're talking to. And make sure that you do what Jim did and have a conversation with just that person and make them feel important and special. And that is how we make friends. And that's what it's all about, is making friends. So thank you so much for your time today. While this was a tough conversation, I'm sure for both of us, I feel like we came out better on the other side. Now, go forth and market with purpose.
Thanks again for listening to Marketing with Purpose. Head over to mayecreate.com, MAYECREATE.com. Yeah, you heard me right, MAYECreate.com for podcast notes and more resources to grow your business. Don't let your marketing suck. Get your pride on, market with purpose.